We're back. There we go. Should be good now. Where they are? Yeah. Are you fine when the timer doubled? Doubled. Oh no. It was like the round 1 minute or 1 hour mark. Kind of near the 1 hour mark. They worked for the first day or two. Blizzard made a tweet saying that they were working on it and they would reach out when it was fixed. And here's what a couple of players thought about it. I was making the video. It was around there. Alright.
This will be located
I'm not gonna waste
on
more
the
time.
edge of
I'm gonna
one
finish
of the
my
game's
food.
3 maps. There are 3 layouts essentially. Nothing is procedural here. Not only are the layouts of each of the maps static, but also the location of different chests and of the enemy spawns, the bosses, all of that. You can learn it basically. It is a map that with enough experience you will learn. There are just 3 of these on rotation. So the room you spawn in has a single point of exit, and this will be a door leading into the adjacent room, and that room will contain any number of things depending on where you spawn in.
Yeah, there's a lot of good TikTok moments from the subathon.
Spiders, skull bats,
I don't know how I'm gonna
zombies,
go
and maybe even
through
a few
5
traps
days
like
at
floor
least,
spikes
or 8
wall
days worth
spikes,
of
or even
content.
chest, keep an eye out for those. And the objective
That's why
is
clips are so
simple.
helpful.
Find a loot, survive, and extract. The problem is with that middle part. Survival is hard. Most players, in fact, die to their very first room that has enemies in it. I know I sure did. On my first playthrough, I stumbled into this open area. I saw some loot on the ground. I walk over, and then all of a sudden, a few zombies just rise up out of the ground. Some skeleton archers start firing at me, and then this big old wraith swoops in, and I was dead on my very first run in under 2 minutes. Welcome to Dark and Darker. That is
this game's
the
mean.
experience. You will die again and again and again. Traps will kill you, basic monsters will kill you, poison clouds and wasps will kill you, arrows from archers will kill you, the various elite enemies like wraiths, skeletal captains, and everything on floors 2 and 3, those will kill you. And then of course, there are other players. They are going to kill you as well. You'll get backstabbed by...
Bro, there's a 3rd floor? I didn't even make it to... We couldn't even get past floor 2.
A rogue, shot in the face by a ranger from across the room, or maybe even through a hole in the door. A barbarian will smash down a wall and 2-shot you with their axe. Invisible wizards will mow you down with their machine gun arcane missiles, or maybe they'll do chain lightning, or maybe a fireball. Lots of ways wizards can kill you very quickly. You are going to die often. That is the name of the game. And the thrill of the whole thing, though, is navigating through that, hiding, sneaking around, collecting your loot, and even doing some killing yourself. And to do so, that basically requires paying close attention. That means paying attention to the environment, seeing if there are any doors open, any torches that are out, which
chain lightning
shouldn't
goes hard,
be, which means a player has doused it essentially, but mostly by listening. This is definitely one of those games, like a lot of the extraction looter games, that puts an extreme emphasis on audio cues. You're gonna want headphones. You're gonna want this cranked up as loud as possible. If you don't have headphones, honestly, if you're playing with the sound off, you're just putting yourself at a severe disadvantage. Obviously, there is the sound of player footsteps. That is going to be a dead giveaway, but the sound of opening and closing doors, the sound of monsters chasing something, you'll learn what that sounds like, which means there is a player, something that the monsters are chasing. The sounds of torches going in and out, the sounds of players queuing up their different attacks or raising their shield, walking and running. Everything makes a sound. Those sounds are unique and distinct, and when you play the game enough, you will learn them, and that will give you a ton of information. It's basically like having 3D vision, more or less. That's how these games are designed, and Dark and Darker follows in the footsteps, basically, of a lot of the other Tarkov-likes in that sense. Play, listen, and learn. In doing so, you're just going to get infinitely better at survival, and that is actually what I found to be one of the strong suits of solo. I've seen a lot of complaints complaining in the community already, asking for solo queue. I don't even know how necessary that is. I feel generally at an advantage, and I've gotten a lot of extractions because as a solo player, I can listen. And teams of 3, it's impossible. It's not, okay, you could do it, but for the most part, in my experience, it is impossible for a team of 3 to remain wholly silent. And you hear a team of 3, you know it's a team of 3 because you can hear 3 sets of footsteps, multiple different attacks. It's pretty obvious. Yeah. And then it's totally up to you what you do. If you feel confident, if you're well geared,
Rogue's so fucking crazy solo,
players,
dude.
you can engage. You can scope it out to see if they're engaged in another fight with another team, or if they're engaged in a PvE fight in which you could third party.
All right, I'm done eating. Scarf down that sandwich. What's the timer at? 46:30. I was eating for 19 minutes? What the fuck? It's a quick 19 minutes. Jeez, time freaking flies, dude. Time genuinely flies, dude. It was 19 minutes. It was a quick 19 minutes, bro. Where you guys go? Right on time. I'm gonna finish this video.
Pick them off, or you could just turn around and run away. All of these are viable options, and all of these, in my opinion, are one of the primary perks to playing solo, is you have an advantage if you're able to be patient. Obviously, the disadvantage, though,
this is a really good in-depth video on Dark and Darker.
For the most part, you're dead, unless you're a wizard who can haste, invis, and run away, or one of the faster classes like a rogue or ranger who's capable of closing doors quickly, laying traps, going invisible, whatever. But even then, if Team of 3 gets on top of you, for the most part, unless you're a wizard, you're probably going to die. Or you can just outplay them and take them out, which is certainly a possibility. I will say, for all of the ragging I've done on the combat, and I know I haven't been
It's so much harder for like a barbarian to 1v3. He'll get fucked.
Have a variety of sort of combo
attacks. A rogue will fuck someone up in a 1v3. They're able to. Wizards especially.
These will attack in different directions.
But like sword fighters, their chances of 1v3ing are so small.
Angles. And then once you learn the attack pattern of the weapon type that you are using, that's it. Like, that is the extent of the combat system. Now, the skill essentially comes how you manage your timing of things, when to engage, and moving in and out of range of stuff. You can outplay other people basically by outranging or outmaneuvering their abilities, but in terms of the action,
Plunkin is indeed now playing Sonic Generations.
It's pretty straightforward. It's really mostly about positioning and timing and trying to do that better than your opponent to land hits and dodge theirs. That's more or less. There is skill there, but it is a very rudimentary combat system, very simplistic. It's not, don't think like chivalry or Mordhau levels of complexity, even though it looks on the surface possibly like that because it's like a simple attack things. The complexity in that sense just isn't there, but that does not mean just because a system is simple and or clunky does not mean there's not room for skill, and does not mean there's not room for outplaying people, because there certainly is. You can absolutely outplay people even with this fairly clunky simple combat. And that's probably the only thing that I would say is a major criticism of the game, is the simplicity of it. But it could also be one of the strengths, if you think about it. That is something that could appeal to a larger audience. A very, very simple,
game is no official mod loader, bro. Shut the fuck up.
It attacks in a certain pattern. Are you close enough to hit, or are you not? That's it. That's the system. So as I mentioned earlier, there are currently 3 maps in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they add more eventually throughout the course of development, but right now there are 3. Each of them have a different layout and main rooms, but more or less the structure is the same. You're in a dungeon with a lot of small, tight corridors, interconnected hallways. There are a few larger rooms on every map. They're kind of more set piece areas, and then doors leading in and out of those with the occasional hidden passage or wall here and there. One thing I do really like about a few of these maps is there is a ton of verticality. There are even a few large rooms that have like 3 to 4 tiers of them, so quite a bit of height verticality that you can take advantage of, especially if you happen to be playing a wizard or a ranger. Being on the top level while there's a team below you, That's good fun, yeah. So as you're going throughout all along the way, beyond the dangers of enemy NPCs, traps, and other players, is the loot to collect. You will find loot on corpses, in chests, by breaking barrels, crates, and vases. There's loot on the floor, on bookshelves, on tables. There's loot everywhere. Some of it you can use, so there are weapons and armor to find. These will come in various rarities, from gray up to orange, I think is the highest tier that I've seen. This gear will come with different stats and bonuses, so the game's got your basic RPG stats like strength, agility, willpower, and then there's knowledge and resourcefulness, which that has to do with the speed in which you like interact with things, open doors. And then also some of the items will come with perks and additional bonuses, giving like a % boost to either offensive or defensive stats. And then there are consumables like potions, bandages, health kits, campfires, and throwables, as well as treasures. These are items that are of high value for trading. You can sell them to the game's vendors, basically to get a currency that lets you buy stuff that they sell. So you're in the dungeon, you're trying to survive, you're collecting loot, and then comes the battle royale mechanics. Every few minutes, a circle of what I assume are locusts or some dungeon bug grows smaller, forcing you and everyone else on the map into an ever-shrinking area. Funny enough, with how dangerous and deadly pretty much everything else is in the game, the circle mechanic is an exception. It is on the lighter side compared to most battle royale games that I've played. Not that this is a battle royale, it just has that circle mechanic, which kind of just puts a sense of urgency into the dungeon diving and exploring. But yes, there is a circle mechanic. It will continue to close. It does so in stages, getting smaller and smaller each time until the final stage where it will engulf the floor entirely. How do you deal with this? Well, through the portals. In each match, after a certain amount of time, portals will start sprouting up that have two different variants. There is the escape and the descend portals. So opening an escape portal will teleport you safely with all of your loot back to the tavern, and the down portal basically takes you further into the dungeon. Although I don't want to spoil this particular part of the game for you, just because it was a really fun surprise on my first time through a down portal. Let me just say, I was not prepared for what awaited me below. But let's assume that as you're starting out, the first few times you actually make it and survive to an escape portal, that you'll actually just take it, which is exactly what I did. Well, in that case, congratulations, you survived, at least for now. So you're going to be taking all of the stuff that you have on your character with you.
Sell that shit.
Anything that you don't want to actually physically use for your next round, you can either sell off to one of the 12 merchants in the game. They sell an assortment of items that are on a rotating stock. Some of them will buy any gear or treasures that you don't want to keep, giving you gold in return that lets you buy whatever it is you do need. You will regularly be purchasing consumables for sure, things like health potions and bandages, as well as any gear for new characters, because yes, you're gonna die a lot. You might not even make it to an escape portal your first through playthroughs, in which case your inventory gets wiped, all of your gear that you collected and any items is gone, and you start with a basic fresh character. Any currency or extra gear that you find and take out by extracting, at that point again you can use it, or you can put it in a stash, which will then be accessed by your refreshed character whenever you do happen to die. And then you do this again and again and again, and that is the loop, what's often referred to as the Tarkov-like loot, survive, extract,
yeah,
repeat.
Tarkov.
That whole thing, that whole process is very enjoyable. I think
this is a good video. I'm gonna subscribe to this guy.
A
really in-depth video about a game I really enjoy.
Level of tension every round, and it feels very rewarding when you extract. Even if I just go in and I encounter only one player, even just going through that process and getting out with like half of an inventory of stuff and getting to extract, even that feels very rewarding because you feel accomplished simply by not dying, because yes, you will die very, very often. And then I will say something else that's really been enjoyable about this game is just trying out new classes or play styles and builds. Like I said, I've leveled up a rogue, ranger, and wizard, and I've enjoyed all of them. As you play, you kill, you extract, you're going to gain experience. This levels you up, and that unlocks those additional perk slots, at which point really starts to boost your capabilities and the different ways you can play. I do still want to try the other three classes solo as well, the barbarian, the fighter, and the cleric. Not exactly convinced that the cleric is going to be able to do much of anything. They definitely seem like a primarily support class. I don't know how successful they will be solo, but I want to try them out, because going through the process of leveling up, trying the different skills, and trying the different passive perks, it's been really fun to see what works and what doesn't, and seeing what you can go in and find success with or even just survive with. On top of that, like I mentioned earlier, there is still an entire progression system that's not even in the game. This looks like a skill tree of sorts, and that will be coming presumably in later updates, but they already have the UI for it. So clearly they've got plans for additional customization and additional tailoring of builds. So if I were to boil Dark and Darker down, I would say this. The pros of the game are it has fantastic immersion and sense of adventure. Like I said before, it really feels like a true D&D experience. It is such a great job of delivering and executing on the dungeon diving fantasy. It's really awesome. I think it's been fun to try the variety and tinker with the different classes and builds, and the whole loop of bringing this D&D fantasy into the target.
That's the big thing. What's his name? This guy's video? Apparently it's Force Gaming. He's almost at 100 or a million. It's a good video. Yeah, man. They really hit like they hit like the Escape from Tarkov and the Dungeons and Dragon group. It's really well done, dude.
Tarkov, go in, loot, survive, extract. That just feels really good and is really fun. My biggest cons, super clunky, simplistic combat.
My biggest is the class system still feels kind of fucky. Like, it doesn't feel like a barbarian can, like, he feels like he will do worse no matter what in like a 1v3 compared to a wizard.
And class balance seems way out of whack.
Yeah, he just said class balance.
Now the good news is that the game hasn't even launched yet. So where they're at is, at this point, they've done a few rounds of what they're calling alpha playtests.
They've done like 3 rounds.
3. These have lasted anywhere between a few days to a week. I think the first one took place in September, and now we're on number 3 here in December. Speaking of which, this current one was supposed to end on the 23rd, but the developer has extended it to the 26th, which is really cool. No doubt partially due to the game picking up steam big time. With each passing day, the peak concurrent player count has kept rising. As of this recording, it's surpassed 55,000 players. It looks like today it's going to go up above 60, possibly 65,000 players. This game is getting really popular really fast. And remember, this is for an alpha playtest of an indie game that isn't even out yet. Dark and Darker isn't
like, imagine if they get like big funding.
2023. So somewhere between 9 and 12 months from now. That is a lot of time to add polish, content, and general improvements, and I really think the game is already in a really good spot. Yeah, I would say if you even slightly like the premise of a D&D Tarkov loot extract game and have any tolerance for janky combat, everything else about this game is great. It's a lot of fun, and I think it has a lot of potential, given that it's not even launching for like another year. So I'm really excited.
As long as they don't pull an Anthem, they'll be fine. As long as they don't pull, what the fuck was that game? Was it We Happy Few? Was that the game, We Happy Few? The pill game? Yeah, We Happy Few was a great indie game that they, like... I forget who it was. It was, like, Gearbox or something. Some big fucking publisher offered to, like, pay for some of the game or something like that. And then it went from, like, an indie game to a game with, like, DLCs and a season pass and all kinds of horse shit. As long as they don't do any of that shit, they've got a product that'll sell like crazy. They should also make it so it doesn't charge too fucking much. If it's like a $30 game at release, it's gonna blow the fuck up. Because then they're already beating like the Escape from Tarkov pricing. We Happy Few was really cool. Not when it first came out. When it first came out, people were pissed. I was pissed. I got the game discounted and still refunded it. Because I bought it and then they said, hey, we're going to make the game cost like $20 more because we're going to add new content. So players who bought it early, you can keep it at this price, but after a certain point, the price is going to go up because we're going to add more and add DLCs and all this other crap. And I was like, whatever. And I played it because they did the early access thing where they let people play it like 8 months before it was anywhere close to being ready. And it was just, I didn't have fun with it, so I refunded it. Maybe try it on Game Pass or something at some other point, but I don't know. Was not a fan of the way it turned out. Got burnt on it. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I got burnt on it. First impressions are super important. If you do an early access and it's shit, that will turn a lot of future buyers away. Alright, let's go play Super Meat Boy. Do I want to play it on PlayStation, get some trophies, or do I want to play it on Steam so I don't have to do anything? Probably just gonna play it on Steam. Oh, gonna have to install it. Good thing it is a short game. Yeah, 400 megs. This is one of our subathon goals. Change the game. Super Meat Boy. A little bit of rage in me. That'll be fun. Yo, someone reached out to me and said they liked my videos. That's super sweet. Super Meat Boy. Watch your guys' ears. I remember this game launching and being loud as fuck. Meat Boy loves her. Aww. Dr. Fetus. Nobody loves Dr. Fetus. Man, fuck Dr. Fetus. That's why Dr. Fetus hates you. Man, fuck you, dude. Dr. Fetus hates Meat Boy. And he kidnapped our girl. Oh. No, you don't even see it. Fuck. Why don't you see it? What if I reboot the game? Fuck it. We go again. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it, but, you know. Team Meat. The Newgrounds game. It is loud. I'll turn it down a bit. Hello? You back? You back? You can hear me? I can be heard?